On a cold February night in 2023, Sarah Monroe, a 27-year-old night shift nurse at St. Vincent Memorial Hospital, was about to experience the longest and most terrifying shift of her life. The hospital, located on the outskirts of Portland, Maine, was known for its sprawling corridors and eerie history dating back to the early 1900s. Despite its modern renovations, there was a persistent rumor that parts of the old wing remained haunted. Sarah had heard the stories from other nurses, flickering lights, strange whispers, and cold drafts that came out of nowhere. But she never believed in ghosts. Tonight, however, would change everything. The clock struck 11:47 p.m. when Sarah entered the dimly lit nurses' station. Her colleague, Laura, yawned loudly, gathering her things. "You're lucky," Sarah said. "I'm stuck here till 7. Better you than me," Laura laughed. "Stay away from the old wing, though. Room 406 gives me the creeps." Sarah chuckled. "Come on, we're professionals. Ghosts aren't real." "Tell that to Mrs. Walsh," Laura whispered dramatically. "She swears someone stood by her bed last night, just staring." Sarah waved her off as Laura left. Alone now, the quietness of the hospital crept in. The faint hum of monitors echoed down the hall. At midnight, a call light blinked from room 406, the room Laura had just joked about. "That can't be right," Sarah muttered. Room 406 was empty. It had been sealed off for renovations after a patient had died there under mysterious circumstances. Curiosity gnawed at her. Grabbing her clipboard, she made her way down the dark hallway. The walls felt colder as she approached the room. The door creaked as she pushed it open. The smell of antiseptic was overpowering. The bed stood in the center, stripped of sheets. Plastic-covered equipment was scattered around. The call light on the wall was still blinking. Sarah frowned and walked over to turn it off. Then she heard it. Soft breathing. Her heart skipped a beat. She spun around, her eyes scanning the empty room. "Hello?" she called, her voice shaky. Silence. She exhaled, convincing herself it was just her imagination. As she reached the door, she noticed something strange. A wet footprint on the floor. It was fresh, and it wasn't hers. Shaking off the unease, Sarah returned to the nurse's station and logged the incident. The rest of the night seemed uneventful until 2:13 a.m., when another alert came through, this time from the basement storage room. "This is getting ridiculous," Sarah muttered. She took the service elevator down. The basement was freezing, its flickering fluorescent lights casting long shadows. Rows of shelves filled with medical supplies lined the walls. The motion sensor lights flickered as Sarah stepped forward. Then she saw it, a figure standing at the far end, facing away from her. "Hello? Can I help you?" she called. The figure didn't move. Sarah's throat tightened. She reached for her radio. "Security, this is Nurse Monroe in the basement. There's someone down here." Static. "Great," she muttered. Taking a cautious step forward, she said, "Sir, you're not supposed to be down here." The figure finally turned. Sarah's blood ran cold. It was a man in a hospital gown, his skin pale and waxy, with hollow eyes that seemed to stare through her. But what terrified her most was the dark, gaping wound on his chest, as if his heart had been ripped out. Before she could scream, the lights flickered and went out. Sarah fumbled for her phone, its flashlight cutting through the darkness. The figure was gone. Her breath came in short gasps as she sprinted back toward the elevator. The doors were open, waiting for her. She hit the button frantically, praying it would close fast enough. Just as the doors began to slide shut, a hand shot through the gap. Sarah screamed, but the doors slammed shut, severing the hand. Panting, she backed into the corner. The elevator jerked upward. When the doors opened on the main floor, the severed hand was gone. Back at the nurse's station, Sarah grabbed the emergency phone to call the police, but the line was dead. Her phone buzzed with a notification. One new message. It was from an unknown number. The message read, "You shouldn't have gone to the basement." Her hands trembled. How did they know? Desperate, she checked the security footage. The basement camera feed showed her walking alone. There was no man in a hospital gown. Her mind raced. Was she losing it? Suddenly, the monitors went static. A distorted voice crackled through the speakers. "Room 406, come now." Despite every instinct telling her to run, Sarah made her way back to room 406. The door was ajar, and a faint light flickered inside. Stepping in, she saw the bed was now occupied. A woman lay there, her face obscured by shadows. "Hello?" Sarah whispered. The woman's head turned slowly. It was Mrs. Walsh, the patient who had complained about someone watching her. But her eyes were gone, replaced by empty bleeding sockets. "You shouldn't have come back," Mrs. Walsh croaked. The door slammed shut behind Sarah. Panic set in as the walls seemed to close in. Shadows writhed around her and the temperature plummeted. A dark figure emerged from the corner, its face contorted into a grotesque smile. "You opened the door," it hissed. "Now you're ours."